here at the Hawaii Plantation Village in Waipahu, next to the Yo Sugar Mill on the island of Oahu. When you come here, this is sort of a walking museum. You take a tour with a docent and they take you first through this tunnel. This is called their time tunnel. The first major migration of people coming to Hawaii was the Polynesians. They came by canoe from the South Pacific. The second most important migration of people coming to Hawaii is what I'm going to call tall ships. On the tall ships came the missionaries, the Portuguese whalers. And they brought with them things like salted fish, bacalao, which is salted cod, the chili pepper, which was high in vitamin C, prevented scurvy from happening on the boat. They brought the chili pepper water to Hawaii. Chili pepper water is a condiment on every table and every household here in Hawaii today. In addition to the missionaries and the Portuguese whalers, you had someone bring sugarcane. And then the sugarcane plantation was born. The Hawaiian population were working the sugarcane plantation fields. And so they now had to go look for workers to work in the sugarcane plantation. The first place they came was China. Imagine this, the Chinese man marries a Hawaiian girl. Now the Chinese man is hungry for Chinese food. Hawaiian girl don't know how to cook Chinese food. So the Hawaiian girl cooks him Hawaiian food. Chinese man does not like Hawaiian food. The Chinese man needs to teach her how to cook Chinese food, and the Hawaiian wife now needs to teach him how to eat Hawaiian ingredients. Now after the Chinese men, then the Japanese came, then the Portuguese came, then the Puerto Ricans, the Koreans, Okinawans, and last the Filipinos. This was the third most important migration of people coming to Hawaii. Now imagine during the plantation time, they were making $6 an hour, $9 an hour. It was a poor time. They grew their own vegetables. They exchanged foods with each other. And so, just like today, you get invited to somebody's house and you bring something with you, you share food. There's a cultural exchange that's happening. In fact, I believe that a long time ago, that is when the beginning of Hawaii regional cuisine was born, right here on the plantation fields. The reason why this place is so important to me is because we use this place as a training tool. It gives you the history of what happened to Hawaii way back when. It tells you about the plantation times, it tells you about the immigrants that came to Hawaii. When you think about the South of the United States of America, you think of soul food. And when you think about Hawaii, I look at these immigrants that came to Hawaii and say, this was our soul food. This is where our food came from. A question could be, how did we get to be that we eat plate lunches? What is a plate lunch? I think a plate lunch only exists in Hawaii. It came from these roots. It came from the plantation times, the immigrants. It came from being very poor and making do with what you had, whether it was the vegetables in your own backyard or whether somebody made it and gave it to you or you traded and exchanged it. Here, this is a Portuguese outdoor oven. It's called a forno. And imagine the Portuguese women making bread or baking bread. Imagine down the road there's a Japanese tofuya, and they would exchange foods. And when they exchanged foods, they shared each other the different dishes, the ingredients, and the cooking styles. Here we're at the Japanese house. And this is what we call a cow tin. Could be considered the early bento. It's two parts. The first part here is filled with rice. Up here you had your okazu, or your dish that you're going to eat your rice with. And so during the plantation times, in fact I remember this during the plantation fields when I used to work the plantation fields, and you would put this in the middle. And so if there's 10 of you, you get 10 things to share and you keep your own rice. So imagine knowing that you're going to have lunch with your friends and you're going to put down something in the middle and you're going to share everything with your friends. You thought about what you're going to bring. So imagine you're in this circle of co-workers and you have a Filipino guy, a Portuguese guy, Korean, Okinawan, Japanese, Chinese, and so you're sharing food. This is where it all happened. This is where it all began. These inspirations, what I call soul food, this is where it is. This is what I look to for inspiration. It's no different than somebody from France or Europe looking to Escoffier for inspiration. My old chef, Andre Saltner, said, nothing is really an invention. The guy that invented puff pastry, now that was an invention. But basically, if you go back into the history books, everybody is reinterpreting something that's already been done. You know, combinations of food, combinations of ingredients. People think it's new, but it's not new. You just have to look to the past. And in fact, I really believe that to understand the present and to understand the future, you have to understand the past, where you came from, the why and the how. My definition of Hawaii regional cuisine, it's the way we cook in Hawaii today that borrows from all the ethnic influences you find in Hawaii today. So it's only fitting that here at the Hawaii Plantation Village that you have all the first immigrants that came to Hawaii. When they came to Hawaii, you know, they brought with them their food. You know, food is a big part of culture. And so this was the beginning of Hawaii regional cuisine a long time ago.